right after fishing reopened here in Washington after the lockdowns, we saw a complete explosion in angler involvement and people wanting to get outside. I think part of that was people had been cooped up for a couple months, but just there was a huge resurgence in interest in fishing. Having more attention and more involvement and people caring for salmon in the long run won't be a bad thing, because when anglers care about salmon as much or more than anybody else in the world, in my opinion. And salmon need advocates right now, and so the more advocates those salmon have, I think the better shot we'll have at getting more money appropriated for habitat recovery and recovering wild salmon. 10% of all of our fishing and hunting related items that we buy go back towards improving the resource through an excise tax, and our license dollars go back into the resource. And I think you can make the argument with some of the nonprofits out there that fishermen are involved with and support do a lot of the heavy lifting on recovering wild fish. I think the public's perception is that we're consumptive users and just take from the resource, and that's not the case with the vast majority of anglers and sportsmen. Most of the really dedicated ones are involved with groups that do everything they can to make sure they're giving back as much as they're taking. Well, there's several local groups that are really involved with different projects with the state and conservation groups, whether it's working at some of the hatcheries to go throw carcasses back in the upper watershed to disperse those nutrients out, habitat restoration projects, egg boxes and streams to help supplement certain runs of fish that need supplementation. I think there needs to be a balanced approach to recovering wild salmon. I think we need to address predation, whether it's birds or pinnipeds. I mean, that's a huge issue. Pinnipeds are taking more or eating more adult salmon than the combined sport, tribal, and commercial harvest right now. Birds are absolutely decimating out migrating smolts. We need to address habitat, remove, the recent culvert case here in Washington. We need to get those culverts updated so fish can access the habitat that's available that's not being used right now. And I think that well-run hatchery programs are an important component of that as well. I think it's important to maintain genetic diversity within our wild populations. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But I think it's possible for well-run hatchery programs to be a critical component of that wild fish recovery. And to say that it's only one way or it's only the other, I don't think it's going to get us where we need to go. It needs to be a combination of things. It's going to take a long time before we don't need hatchery supplementation. We've been degrading habitat for 200 years. The Chinook and then we've had all these habitat restorations programs going, but we're still outpacing that. The degradation's still outpacing that, and our Chinook and steelhead populations in Puget Sound aren't recovering. It's getting worse. So with the population growing at the rate that it is, I don't see how we will be able to maintain any sort of consumptive fisheries without hatchery production for the foreseeable future. I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that something turns around and wild fish recover, but it's going to take a long time to do that. I don't think removing hatchery fish is the silver bullet to wild fish recovery at all. I think the habitat issues are a much greater driver in that than really anything else. Even if you did remove hatchery fish, which the jury's still out on if that's really what's inhibiting wild fish recovery. I don't think that's the main driver in why wild fish aren't recovering. Fishing's very fun. It's my favorite thing in life.